anything on the first 2 turns of the game. It looked a little bit suspect to me, that's all. We'll take a look here at Ken Min Yeoh, Esper Control against Brett Cash, Mono Black Devotion. We've seen Ken Min before because last time we were here, me and you, last year we watched him win with blue, white, red.
Right, so this time he's taken out red. He's moved over to black for Esper Control. He is playing the Elixir of Immortality version, cutting down on some win cons. These win cons, there's 1 Aetherling, 2 Elspeth right now. But he's splashing, actually, it's a heavy black splash. He has 3 Heroes Downfall, 2 Doomblade, 2 Thoughtseize, and a Dimir Charm, all in black.
Yeah, we have seen versions like this before. I know Brian DeMars was on the Heroes Downfall splash in Cincinnati where he made top 64 with that deck. You really think about it with Guillaume Wafotapa at Pro Tour Theros. Yeah. Kind of really putting this entire strategy on the map as he is known to do with control decks.
Yeah, so he's up against Mono Black Devotion. We're going to game 3. So things are mixed up a little bit. There's a Dark Betrayal, which Ken probably has access to. There's a Negate, a Revoke Existence. Probably all of those are in. He does have access to Fiendslayer Paladin, which I don't think is typically used in the matchup.
No, I would be surprised if it's in his deck.
Yeah, it's all about fighting over, like as an Esper player, you're fighting over Black's card draw spells. You're fighting over Erebos, Underworld Connections, and Nightveil Spectre.
Which Cash does have. He does not have Lifebane Zombie. He's in a Nightveil Spectre camp. His version of this deck is pretty straightforward. Again, all the 4 ofs, his singletons are 1 Whip of Erebos, a singleton Doomblade, 2 Devour Flesh, 3 Bile Blights. Most of those cards that I mentioned are probably going to be out of his deck at this point. He does have 4 Duresses, 2 Erebos. He could bring in his Lifebane Zombies if he'd like to. He has 3 of those. An additional copy of Devour Flesh and 3 Dark Betrayals. So it's pretty straightforward. And one thing that I've noticed here in the matches that we have covered is that the players that are playing Mono Black Devotion, they're not playing Black-White Devotion. They're not playing Black-Red, Eric Froelich style. Everyone's got, 17 or more swamps in their deck.
Yeah, Mono Black certainly seems to be the deck choice of the day here.
To be fair, with what happened last weekend on the Open Series with Kevin Wang winning with Mono Black Devotion and then Robert Burney winning the Grand Prix with it, it's not really too surprising, right?
Yeah, if I were playing in this tournament, I would certainly expect Mono Black to once again be the most popular deck. For a while, I would say we had Red White Burn being like the public enemy deck. Or certainly on the rise. Before that, we had Monsters on the rise. But I think we're back to a spot where Mono Black is on top and people have their sights on it.
Yeah. It's weird that what has happened over the past couple of weekends is that the same deck has had success on the same weekend in 2 different tournaments. We saw that a couple weeks back in Cincinnati where Esper won that GP and then won the Open Series in Los Angeles. And then now Mono Black winning both tournaments last weekend too. So, and that just, it looks like that's the way that people just go the following week is, yeah, sure, I mean, it won. Why wouldn't I play it?
Absolutely. So Ken took game 1, lost game 2. He's on the play game 3.
Here's a Thoughtseize, so we get to see what Yeoh is working with.
Yeah, and so in this matchup, a lot of people say the most important cards from Mono Black are the Erebos, and the Underworld Connections. Speaking from the Esper side of things, I actually feel like the most important card for Mono Black is Thoughtseize and Duress. That's the strongest thing you can have in this matchup, and he has one right here.
Yeah, just let you know exactly what you need to worry about, which now is just a Dimir Charm along with those Scrylands. Now, Scrylands are incredibly powerful because they actually let you hide cards from Thoughtseize. I think that's the thing I like about him the most. Ken drawing an Elixir for the turn. Going to play a Temple of Enlightenment and take a look. He's going to leave that card on top. He'll drop the Elixir and pass the turn back.
Yeah, he doesn't want the Elixir to be Thoughtseize. This certainly is a matchup where you may need an Elixir. If you both start going into late games, as long as you can keep Erebos off the table, you can Elixir Revelation your opponent.
Temple of Deceit going to show up here for Cash. And you got a Temple of Deceit on Yeoh's side as well. He's going to leave that card on top. You saw he drew a Hero's Downfall last turn, passed the turn back.
So far, the Temples have really just been Guild Gates for Ken. He's kept everything on top. I'm interested that he kept Hero's Downfall there and a little bit surprised because he didn't have a way to interact with Underworld Connections, and it looks like he still doesn't have a way to interact with it.
Yeah, it just did show up to the party, so.
Ha! It looks like look what he kept on top.
Yeah, it's a detention sphere. He can see into the future, apparently. He's going to put the top card on the bottom. He's going to cast Sphere immediately, get that thing off the table, thank you much, pass it over back to Cash. So this is very commonplace for this matchup, just an exchange of resources in the early turns of the game.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that Brett decided to go for that Underworld Connections even though he had a Duress in hand, opting to get it past counter magic as opposed to checking that the coast was clear.
He's going to fire off that Duress now, however. You're going to see a hand of Hero's Downfall, Watery Grave, and a Dimir Charm. Remember, the top card of Yeoh's deck is a mystery. He put that one on the bottom finally, so.
Yeoh has 4 turns, 4 temples so far.
Yep. There's a dissolve.
Well, that's a pretty good one.
Deciding if he wants to play the Water Reef tapped or untapped. He's going to play it tapped and pass the turn back over to Cash, who will take a draw. It's a swamp. You see the whip. He's got some removal in his hand as well. See if he wants to deploy something here.
It's downfall, whip, and looks like a pair of gray merchants are the cards that remain for Brett.
Gonna go with the whip.
And if I'm Ken, I don't think I can let whip resolve.
Yeah, it seems like it doesn't do very much right now, but it does things over the course of the game that are very scary.
Yeah, especially because you're here. Well, right now Ken's game plan is to go real late.
Yep.
And whip will, like say for example, Brett plays one of these gray merchants. You can't have him whipping back gray merchants all the time at you.
Rev the draw here for Yeoh. It's just a baby rev. It would be for 2.
Yeah, it's interesting to see when he chooses to fire it off. I mean, certainly if Brett taps out for an Erebos here, he'll fire it off.
Yeah. Well, there is Erebos, and I think we're having a little response.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter whether he gains 2, but it's more like he has to do this because he can't let Erebos stay on the table.
Yep. It's just too good of a card. Aetherling and a Watery Grave for the draws.
Yeah. Well, Aetherling's really important here. That's actually a good backup plan for Ken. If you can't answer Erebos or Underworld Connections and you start losing to the card, Aetherling is a pretty good weapon you can use against mono black as well. They can't answer it, and you can attempt to race them. Though it's going to be pretty hard to race through 2 gray merchants, especially. Well, I was going to say especially if the Aetherling's not in his hand. He can protect the Aetherling with Dimir Charm here.
Yeah, and I think he actually probably has to cast this in this situation. I'm sure he doesn't want to, but I think this is a situation where you have to protect the Aetherling, get the job done. Of course, Dimir Charm, 3 modes on that. Counter target sorcery is the one that matters the most right now. And you see Brett Cash is going to read that and say, oh, okay, sure, I don't ever see this card, but that's fine.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if he's going to Mutavault here. If I'm Brett, I'm not sure I want to Mutavault as opposed to just drawing 2 cards.
I would want the 2 cards in this situation too, and just, I mean, we're working our way into a long game anyway, so. And now he's going to play Aetherling with just a blue mana available and pass the turn back, so. Now he's going to be put to the test right away. Will Cash as he's going to activate Erebos on the end step here.
He has 1 kill spell. He has the Hero's Downfall. If he finds a second one either in this card or his draw from the turn and has the mana to cast them both, he can actually get rid of the Aetherling.
The question is, how many kill spells did he leave in his deck? That's the big question.
There's the Downfall. It looks like he has a Night Veil Spectre, some Gray Merchants. I don't think he has a second way to kill it.
Well, new plan.
Yeah. Now we have to race. Fortunately, he does have double Gray Merchants, so Brett's fairly well positioned for a race.
Now, of course, the question now is, do you deploy the Spectre first or do you deploy Gray Merchant first?
Well, you can use the Hero's Downfall to fog for a turn in the race too. So I think you start with Night Veil and then you immediately Downfall fog the Aetherling so that when you decide to start racing with these Gray Merchants, you not only have an activated Erebos, but you're draining for a lot more thanks to Spectre.
Big draw there for Yeoh. He draws a copy of Sphinx's Revelation. Interesting to see how he's going to try to balance this out. He wants to take a look here at Erebos, see exactly what it does, and it says, your Revelation, it just draws you a bunch of cards, doesn't gain you any life.
Yeah, and that's actually not going to be enough right now. Remember, if Brett plays one of these Gray Merchants, it's going to activate the Erebos. I'm surprised, but it looks like Brett's actually going to go ahead and take the damage here.
I think maybe he's seeing if there's going to be any pumps or not, and there won't be. So Cash is going to actually just take 4. This is going to get blinked out with the thought, I think, of, if I have to block Erebos, I can. Or if I have to block Mutavault.
Right, but the difficulty here for Ken is Brett, we see, draws another card with Erebos here. And you'd be concerned if you're on Ken's side there because you'd only be drawing cards if he had Gray Merchant.
Yeah, it's almost like now Cash is coming from too many angles of attack, right? He's got the Spectre out there. That card plays a role in this matchup. He's got Erebos, which is threatening to turn on, but in the meantime, he'll just draw some cards. Also is bricking the gain life part of the Revelation. And now, even though he doesn't know that Cash has 2 copies of Gray Merchants, I think he could assume that, okay, he probably has 1.
All right. So if you're Cash, you have to think about how you could lose this game. How he could lose this game is if Ken has first of all, Ken has counter spells for Gray Merchants. Step 1.
Okay.
Step 2, when you try to use the Hero's Downfall to fog, Ken counters your removal spell.
Sure. I'm going to lead with the Gray Merchant pre-combat.
Yeah, if this resolves...
it will resolve, but with the trigger on the stack, he's going to ultimate price that. So the devotion count is going to be for 4. So Cash is going to gain 4 life. He'll go up to 14. Yeoh's going to lose 4 life. Now let's not forget, he can actually gain 5 life at will because of the elixir.
Well if he gets rid of the Erebos.
In most circumstances, yes.
Erebos is a really big jerk against Esper.
So now there's Jace, which he could actually cast.
Does he have 2 temples?
Yes.
Oh, man, he has 2 temples. That's really gross.
He could actually cast that shit.
I've seen, what is it? I have had a Night Veil Spectre hit a Sphinx's Revelation, looked over and seen 2 blue temples and a white temple, and then been like, okay, and then concede to that.
That's called a disaster.
I will never let my opponent cast one of my Sphinx's Revelations. We'll, yeah.
Yeoh's going to play an island. Again, his last card is just Rev. He's going to attack here with Aetherling. I don't know if he can pump. If pumping even does anything. Because he's got this Rev, but the Rev doesn't gain any life. He's just going to blink this out with the idea of, okay, I need to try to block your Erebos or your Immunivault with this and just pass the turn back.
Yeah, he's got Brett down to 10. This next Gray Merchant is probably going to kill him.
Yeah, so the next Gray Merchant comes in. It's for 3, 4, 5, 6. It puts him down to 6. And then it would be a lethal attack, but Aetherling gets to do some blocking.
I think Ken's planning to blink out and Rev for 2. Block, blink out, Rev for 2. That's what you can do because you know about Hero's Downfall in Brett's hand. You saw it earlier, so you can't actually Rev for the full amount.
Yeah.
And this other Gray Merchant is just... I think you're just unhappy that, yeah, that happens. That's not good. You can't fish for a counterspell here. You'd be revving for 1 in hopes of hitting a counterspell. And if you did, he'd kill your Aetherling. It's like just a pretty bad deal all around.
Yeah, he would need the land to kill the Aetherling, which he
That's
doesn't.
true.
He actually doesn't have. So that's actually like a bonus here, because now you actually get to rev for a little bit more. Now he has to block Erebos, obviously.
Yeah, block Erebos, blink out.
Yep. He gets to rev for 3.
Gets to Rev for 3.
Trigger's going to be a temple. What's the perfect rev here?
Does he have... I was going to say Fated Retribution. He doesn't play it. Yeah, there isn't one in his deck.
2 lands and a Hero's Downfall. Bring back Aetherling.
Well, it starts... Whatever it is, it starts with a Detention Sphere.
Huh. Elspeth good?
Well, there's no more Gray Merchants. Elspeth's okay. There's still this problem that you're at 2, he's got a flyer, and he's about to cast your Jace.
Oh, there are a lot of problems here for Ken. let's not get it twisted.
Well, actually, with 6, 7, 8 mana, all his other lands come into play tapped. He actually can't afford to pay for a shock land.
Yeah.
So he cannot Elspeth and Hero's Downfall this turn, which means he is going to take 2, and that actually should be lethal on Brett's turn.
If Brett makes the appropriate lines of play.
Yes, the line would have to be swing. As long as he says swing the team, he's in the clear.
Huh.
But that's, yeah, Brett can just swing the team, and he, let's see, Downfall. Well, Downfall will turn off Erebos, but he can't block both Mutavault and Gray Merchant.
Yep.
So he just activate Mutavault.
It has to be activate Mutavault too, right?
Activate Mutavault, swing team.
Ooh, this is an attack.
I mean,
it's
yeah.
a freebie. Yeah, sure.
Sure. It's gonna put him, oh, he's gonna put him down to
9.
9. That's not really scary. 8's way scarier than 9.
I just don't think he can afford to do everything that he wants to do. I mean, at the same time, he has to take some gigantic risks as well, so.
Well, he's dead on board, and he knows it. So at that point, like, calculations of what the right play is like, what's the right bluff? Certainly when your opponent draws another Gray Merchant, that makes things even worse.
Yeah, so Brett Cash with the 3rd Gray Merchant that technically he didn't even really need is going to win this match over Ken Yeoh. 2-1, Mono Black Devotion looks like the choice of the day here in Dallas, and it is definitely winning when we watch it play.